not doing my best work when I'm stressed out about like, oh my gosh, am I going to make money next month? Or, I'm not doing great work. And I also am going above and beyond. Like there are brands that I work with long term that I have annual deals with that I'm going to do like if they release a new feature, I'm just going to post something organically about it because I have that relationship. It's not so much this like tit for tat, like everything's a line item in the invoice. It's a true relationship.
This is Latasha James. She makes an annual revenue of $500,000 teaching social media managers, freelancers, and creators how to earn an income while navigating and building successful online businesses. Latasha's path to being a full-time creator and business owner was a slow and natural process, with each step of the way offering her new opportunities to earn more and grow more with each new client, video, and opportunity. Pivoting from a hobby beauty creator to a creative service provider allows for her to do her best work one income stream at a time. In this episode, we're going to discuss her transition from corporate to self-employed, building case studies for every client to show proof of concept, expanding her offerings from service to digital courses and membership, how she keeps her creative business lean as a one-woman show with a little help from her husband, and her secret to growth. Latasha gives us the roadmap for being successful creators and reminds us to stay humble and stay lean. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by GigaStar. Welcome to the podcast, Latasha. This is such a fun interview for me because you and I have been in the same space, but without ever actually interacting or talking with each other ever. And we found out we live like 30 minutes from each other, which makes this even funnier. So I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Yes, excited to chat with you too. Love everything I see, all that you're doing in this space. So
thank you. I appreciate that. What do you create on YouTube?
I create content for freelancers and content creators on YouTube. So I help them learn how to monetize, build their businesses. And honestly, my big thing is helping people have fun doing it because I think it's a really cool creative space we're in. And I like to just have fun with work a little bit more.
I think that's important because it's really easy for us to get boring with it. I saw this really great quote on LinkedIn today that was like, and it's from Mark Zuckerberg, who talked about like, when people discovered electricity and they had it in their homes, they were super excited and they talked about it nonstop. But eventually people stopped talking about it. The real measuring stick that we need to ask ourselves is how many people stopped turning on the lights just because they stopped talking about it. And I feel like that is where social media has become and where the creator economy, I think, is really heading into, because everyone knows it's here. Everyone uses it all the time. People aren't just like up and getting rid of it in droves. So I think that it's a good point to talk about like, this is a job and it's okay. And we should enjoy it at the same time.
For sure. Yeah. And I've definitely found that when that passion starts to dwindle, my content doesn't perform as well. There are types of content I've produced over the years that does really well, but my heart's just not in it. And it's really hard to stick with it. So we got to keep that passion alive, I think.
Yeah. And we'll, I think, talk about some money related ways to make that happen, especially because there's so much of like this quit era going on YouTube when the time that we recorded this. So but piggybacking off of like the question of like, what do you create? How did you get into this? Like, how did you get started creating this kind of content, and how did you get into YouTube?
Well, I got into YouTube about 10 years ago, and I actually started out doing beauty content. I did like makeup reviews and tutorials, and I started because it was fun. I honestly had no idea there was this whole financial side of YouTube. Like, I guess I probably had an idea that some people were getting paid, but I definitely did not think it was what it is today, or even what it was back then. I was very clueless. So I just kind of let my passion guide me, to be honest with you. I did that for several years, just doing like beauty content and lifestyle content, kind of vlogging my life. And so I was in college at that point. I graduated college and moved out here to Metro Detroit, got my first real job, office job in marketing. And I just that was part of the documentation process. I was vlogging. I was like, oh yeah, I'm working in marketing. Here's what this is all about. I was also freelancing on the side. And I realized very quickly that that's what people cared about. Like, people were like, freelancing, what is that? Or what is this marketing job? What is it like working in corporate? And so I started going a little bit deeper on the career side of things and the entrepreneurship side of things at that point.
And so how did YouTube play a part in it? Is it just because like it was just a natural fit for you since you were familiar with it with beauty and stuff? Or was there like a strategic reason that you chose YouTube as your platform of choice to build your brand?
It was not strategic. It was just fun. I went to school for film, so I'll say that. Like that's actually where or why I started my YouTube channel to begin with is my YouTube channel was open because we had to submit projects via YouTube sometimes and learn how to use YouTube. So that's why I even went on youtube.com for the first time. So yeah, I think there was always that passion for creating video content. So and YouTube was kind of the only option at that point to do so.
I definitely can relate to that. So I graduated from college in 2007 with my bachelor's in multimedia art and animation. And one of the things that our teachers were like, there's this new thing out called YouTube. You should put your demo reel up there because then you can just send the links to people because we literally would spend like the last like month or two that I was in college, I spent burning physical DVDs of my demo reel to mail to
Yep.
people to apply for jobs because that's how we did it. And it feels so grandma of me to say it, but it's like it is. It's like it's a great place. I think a lot of people start off using YouTube and there are tons of businesses out there that are using YouTube as almost like a dumping ground for projects, for PR clips, for all that kind of stuff. And so there's definitely like this multi-purpose use for YouTube that I think it's important for us to remember that there's not just one way that people are using YouTube and to support their businesses.
Absolutely.
You had a job, you're doing this thing on YouTube. When was your first taste of income related to YouTube?
I think it must have been maybe around like 2015 or 2016 is when I started consistently getting AdSense paychecks. Now, they were small at that point. I mean, they were probably like maybe $500, maybe. But they were consistent. It was a consistent, like, okay, I can pay the internet bill with this or buy something, with that. Yeah, so I think that was my first taste.
And when did it become sustainable income? Like where you were able to, consider the idea like I could go full time doing just this.
I would say I could consider YouTube a full-time job on its own, probably 2019-ish. I went full-time. I quit my corporate job in late 2018. And
Okay.
so I think that was a lot of it is I was able to really up my uploads. So I was doing 3 videos a week at that point, and
Wow.
that's when I really started to see like sustainable income. I mean, it was still a lower salary, but it was a full-time salary just doing YouTube.
There's a lot of savings though that come into like working from home and working for yourself that make it like a little bit more likely. And there's probably a
Yeah.
whole like conversation and a whole debate people can have about how much money you should have or be making before you do that kind of a big jump. But I like that what is it that made you want to quit your job though? Like was it like you didn't like it, you weren't happy with it, or creative, like you just want to work for yourself? What was the situation because income had been solved?
So I was obviously doing freelancing in addition to YouTube, and my freelance clients really just, I was saying no to a lot of people because of my day job. And honestly, I loved my day job. Like it was really great. I learned so much from it. It was really flexible. I worked from home a lot, but I felt like I'd kind of hit a wall in terms of my personal growth. Like there were certain projects that I wanted to be working on that I just couldn't or didn't have the bandwidth for or whatever. Whereas with my freelance clients, I was all in. I mean, I was like doing everything from event marketing, flying out to events in LA to support my clients, doing video content. Like I really just felt like I got to get my hands a little dirtier. And at that point in my life, especially, I just felt like that was where I was at, is I wanted to grow as much as possible.
While you're going along your journey with freelancing and using YouTube, what was a bad money experience that you had that, maybe shook you, made you doubt, that you had to like overcome?
Well, I think the biggest mistake I made early on is that I like I said I was pretty clueless and I didn't really know that people made money from YouTube. And then when I learned that people made money from YouTube, I just thought it was AdSense. I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, so I got to, wait until I get more views and then get monetized that way." And there I could have probably been making a lot more money a lot sooner if I were to have like, let's say, collected email addresses for people way sooner. I didn't start an email list until probably like 2019, 2020, where I was consistently capturing some of those leads. So yeah, I mean, I think it was just a little bit of ignorance and just sort of waiting for the AdSense number to go up before I really dove in deeper.
Have you ever had an experience where like a freelancer client didn't pay or like a sponsor was holding you hostage or anything like that?
Okay, that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So, one of my first sponsors on YouTube was when I was still doing beauty, fashion, lifestyle content. And I got quite a bit of like in kind, like products, get on PR lists, things like that. I didn't really get paid a ton when I was, very small. There was a brand, I'm not going to say their name. They're out of business now, but it was a clothing store and they gave me like a clothing allowance and also offered to sponsor a video. I mean, it was very low. I want to say it was like a couple $100 probably, but they completely ghosted me. And so it wasn't, again, like I wasn't crying over the amount of money. It wasn't big enough to make a big impact, I guess, in my life, but it was just a really bad feeling because I'd already published the video, I'd already promoted this brand. It was like, "Oh my gosh, they're amazing." And then I'm like, "Actually, they suck. They didn't pay me." So,
Did you take
yeah.
the video down and stuff, or was it like paired with like being well performing?
I think I did take it down, but it took me a while because I was, see the best in people. I'm like, they're just taking a while. I didn't want to instantly take it down. And also cuz it was entertainment. It was content for my audience. So it's that weird thing that's part of the challenge when you're working with sponsors or start bringing third parties in is now you have like 3 people at the table. You've got you've got the brand, but then you've also got your audience. And it's like, why would I take something down that might be enjoyable for my audience too? So I did take it down, but it took a while.
Let's talk about this for a second because sponsorships, like I call them the big three. Like we have AdSense, we have affiliates, and we have sponsorships. There's the big three that the vast majority of people will think of when it comes to being a creator YouTube that makes money. And we've had some people on our podcast that like when you look at their pie chart of like where their income is, a lot of it does come from those things. What is it that about the era that we are in with sponsorships where it seems that like everyone just wants to milk creators and YouTubers like what they can do for them without paying effectively? I just came back from Creator Economy Live, which is a really fantastic event, great for like brand networking and seeing things from like that perspective versus just the creator side, which is what we see like at Vid Summit and stuff. But a lot of it was still like working with smaller creators. They have like you can usually do in kind stuff. There's all this stuff, and it's very much feels like this icky feeling of like creators are just a distribution system. In fact, like a lot of the people have referred to us as publishers. Like we're publishers, we're not creators. And it's like they have access to who we have, and we have a level of control and power because we can give them money or not give them money or ask and request or want things or give in kind and all this kind of stuff. And it just on the other side of it, we have really great creators, like Benji and Justin with Brand Wizard who are talking about, or Creator Wizard talking about like, no, don't do stuff for free. Don't do things in kind. Get paid for stuff because you have a skill. And sometimes I feel like as creators, especially when you're smaller and you're growing, there's pressure that's like, I don't know what to charge. I don't know if I should charge, but they're helping me out. Oh, it's a big brand. It's going to give me such good recognition and credibility. There's all this stuff that gets wrapped up in it that can be just so complicated and emotional. How do we as YouTubers, how do we navigate that?
I feel you on all of that. So something that I'm really proud of for the past year at least is most of my sponsorships have been long-term relationships. Most of them, like the recurring ones and what has made up the bulk of my sponsorship income. And I really am pushing for that because as you know, as somebody in this space, as somebody who knows about marketing, like people need repetition. I don't know what the stat is, it's like 8 times. They need to hear something 8 times or something before they take action. And when brands reach out and say, "Hey, could I get a 30-second ad spot?" and then they're mad they don't see ROI. Well, like, yeah, I don't see ROI if I talk about one of my courses for 30 seconds in one video. Like you need that repetition and that relationship. And also it shows that stamp of approval, like that authenticity. If I'm working with a brand long term, I really do like them and really do recommend them as opposed to just a quick, ad read. So I'm really pushing for that, for more of that. And I want brands to understand that you're probably not going to see immense ROI from one 30-second ad read. Yeah, because I think that's what's happening is a lot of brands are getting burnt out on that. They're like, "Oh, we tried influencer marketing. We tried working with creators." I'm like, "But Tell me more about what you tried, because I don't think it's sometimes the systems aren't really set up.
I think that sponsors miss out on an opportunity because it's not just about repetition. Like I looked up and it's like the rule of thumb is it takes 7 views or 7 times before someone will take action, over 10 times to be memorable and over 20 times to be like turned into a conversation or something that people like want to truly take action on. And with social media, because there's so much coming at us, sometimes it can be just one click, like TikTok shop. Like last night, it got me as an ad because I saw this thing where it's like a magnet that you put in your book and it has like your post-it notes and your pens and your highlighters. And I'm like, oh my God, I need this in my life. It's this problem that solved for me. Like I didn't need, he didn't have to make more than 5 seconds into that ad before I clicked buy, right? But then there's things also where it can take time and time and time again before I'm like, okay, I actually need this solution because I finally have this many problems. And
Yeah.
brands have a real great opportunity to work with creators with long-term partnerships to allow for that person like you or me to be that expert in it. And then people just associate us as brands. Like, so for me, one of my longest term relationships was StreamYard. I will go to events and people will find me and bring me their computers and say, I can't figure out how to do this in StreamYard. Can you show me? And I'm like, of course I
Yep.
can show you. And I go in and I do it. But that doesn't happen if like you're hopping from brand to brand to brand to brand. And I think that the idea of working with lots of creators sounds so nice because everyone has these pocket audiences. But there's this other side of it where we as creators, like we're wanting more stability in this industry as a whole.
Oh
We
yeah.
still need income reliability, especially in, overall hard economic times. And this is a great way for partnership. And I wish that brands would understand that more, that is what we want as creators is more longevity, long-term partnerships that can be lucrative for all of us from multiple ways, not just a direct click buy relationship.
Absolutely. And my long-term partnerships allow me to do my best work, because I'm not doing my best work when I'm stressed out about like, oh my gosh, am I going to make money next month? Or, I'm not doing great work. And I also am going above and beyond. Like there are brands that I work with long-term that I have annual deals with that I'm going to like if they release a new feature, I'm just going to post something organically about it because I have that relationship. It's not so much this like tit for tat, like everything's a line item in the invoice. It's a true relationship.
Yeah, like I said, it's not just a transactional thing. Like I want to create these videos for you, and that's it. It really does become so much more in depth and has so much more value. And I think that brands can really benefit from it. So to counter it, because we talked a lot about like the benefit creators have to brands, what can we as creators do to find those long-term relationships and get past this whole free product, only affiliate relationship with a brand? Or is maybe that part of the stepping stone to it?
I think it's part of the stepping stone for sure. I mean, like I said, I started out with a lot of free products in the beauty days. Got a couple of small sponsorships, a couple $100 here or there. And from that, you build case studies. You're able to say, hey, I got this free product, and make sure you get tracking links. Even sometimes brands are like, oh no, we don't need one. I'm like, no, like I'm going to do my own then. I'm going to use a bit.ly or whatever I need to do because I want to see how much traffic I drove to your website for my own case studies, for my own records. And if you're able to speak to that and say, yeah, I was able to drive this much traffic, or if you can drill down even further and say this many sales, this many coupon codes, etc., well, now you have a case study. And now you have proof of concept that you can take and bring to brands and just, move up from there. And I always tell people too, even if you don't have a brand yet that you're working with, start an email list, host a free webinar or something just to get that case study of, hey, I was able to translate this percentage of my audience to sign up for something or to join an email list. And that can be used as a case study even.
What are your thoughts on being an expert in something, but not having an audience around something? Let's say a beauty creator, like they're a little bit easier because like what happens, I feel like in the beauty space and the fashion space is we as consumers find someone that we can relate to for the very specific reasons, like they have a body type similar to us, they have a skin complexion similar to us, they have hair similar to us, which is what we're trying to model off of, right? And this is why body, inclusivity is such a big deal because everyone has different bodies and we can find different things, like how you do your makeup, your hair, what you wear is totally different than how I do makeup, I do my hair, how I get dressed. And so like, and again, woman problems, but like for the most part, I mean, men have this too, but like, that's how that part of it can work. So that makes a lot of sense for like building a relationship. For a brand that's maybe more education focused, who's more like problem solving focused, what do you think they do when it's sort of like when you look at the back end of their YouTube and they have that really big gap between their blue and purple lines on YouTube? What do you think it is that they should be doing that could help them with getting sponsorship deals and partnerships? I know that without it just being as simple as like, well, build a community that keeps coming back. What is that advice?
Yeah, well, I think that's very valid and kind of, going back to even your initial question about sponsorships, it's weird because I both do freelance work, a lot of video work and marketing work, and I also work as a creator. What's interesting is oftentimes I could work with a very similar brand as a video producer and get way more money than as a content creator.
Okay.
And I'm doing the exact same thing. And so, again, I think that's where I wish brands would pay attention to that of like, okay, you're going to spend like $10,000 on somebody to create this brand video for you, but you can't spend $1,000 on a creator to do an integration. Like, where is that disconnect when we're doing the exact same thing? And often a creator is doing more work because you're on camera too. So I guess to answer your question, that position it as content that you're creating. If you like to create videos, if you like to create tutorial videos or explainer videos, I think that's how I would package it, as more of a done for you service, as opposed to getting access to your influence, if you will. They're getting access to your skills, to your expertise. And I've done a lot, in my agency, I do a lot of work like that. I work with a lot of SaaS companies doing tutorials and filming courses and things like that. There's a real market for that. So if you're an expert, these tools, maybe that's the route to go down, as opposed to trying to be like the biggest influencer, if you will.
It's almost like audience versus UGC, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like you can both are viable, both have financial income. Like if, from my perspective, like this is a UGC thing. Like the Funded YouTuber is made with GigaStar, which is a company I truly believe in, and it's a program that's really valuable for creators. And like I've gone to them because I have the tools, I have the equipment, and I have the connections to bring people into this podcast and talk about something that we all like get hyped about, which is money. And so it acts as that kind of a way. Well, I also have the creator side where I'm making money on my own through my other creator channels.
Yep, for sure.
We've talked about a lot of things about like financial failures and things to grow and learn from. I'd love to know about a really successful financial situation for you that was like the cherry on top. Like this is the new standard. This is what I always want and hope for to share with our audience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll shout out my partnership with a social media tool, Metricool. I worked with them all of last year, and hopefully we'll be continuing that. But yeah, we've had a long-term relationship, and that was my first deal that I pitched myself without like a manager or anything. That was for like a long-term collaboration. They sponsored the podcast. And like I said, it just enabled me to guarantee for my audience that I am able to continue the podcast this year. I'm able to commit that time and energy into it. And I think it's been really successful for them too. I mean, my audience absolutely loves the tool. So yeah, I would say that's a success story for me.
Why was Metricool a good partnership for you? Like, what were the things that you identified that worked for you, and what should we look for in our successful partnerships?
Alignment with your audience is number one. So my best-selling course, most of my top performing videos, they're all about social media management, social media strategy. So it makes sense that I bring in a tool or resource that helps with those things in particular. Now, with that said, it was quite challenging for me because they're not the only social media scheduler, social media analytics tool that I've worked with or that has reached out to me in the past. There are a lot of them out there. So I wanted to make sure that it was truly the best in many ways. One, just functionality, also budget, knowing my audience. Metricool is I feel like this is like an ad for Metricool, but they're very affordable for what it is. And some of the other tools are amazing, but they're super, super expensive. I mean, they're like, only corporate level folks can really afford them. My audience is mostly freelancers or small business owners. So they've got smaller budgets. So I needed to make sure I chose something that also aligned for, and that's twofold. One, so the audience would like it and be able to use it, but then so the brand would get success. Because if I'm sharing something that's $3,000 a month or whatever, I'm not going to get any conversions for them. So it's not going to be successful on the brand side either. So really important to keep, just that alignment, the audience alignment in mind first and foremost.
I love that you picked a tool, like I said, because there's tons of social media marketing tools. And I love that you were like, were able to find the right alignment for your audience as well. Like, it's not like an industry alignment, it's an audience alignment as well. And I think that's really important. Like, it'd be really easy for, a creator to be like, oh, of course I'm going to partner with Amazon, but maybe like a big part of your demographic loves Sheen or something, or is looking for more body inclusivity, or they want just fashion, not all the other stuff. Like, I know it's a really like vague example, but those are really important things to take into account. And I also think like relationships. How did you get your relationship with Metricool? Like, I know for me, it's just I go to events all the time and I network all the time with LinkedIn and stuff. Like, that's how I build my friendships that turn into brand partnerships. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, we started out just working on one video. They reached out inbound to my email inbox, and we worked on a couple of videos, just one-offs. And like I said, I loved them. And I also felt like I had to make a decision, because with social media tools, like a social media scheduler, you really only use one. Like, you're not using all of the different tools. So I was like, I have to have some alliance to one. I need to make a decision on this. And if I am going to make an alliance to one, if you will, I need that to be a long-term thing, because I don't want to like put all my eggs in the basket and then we decided to change our mind a month later. So I approached them and I said, hey, what do you think about sponsoring the podcast? And we actually met at Social Media Marketing World in person and chatted too. And I do, to your point of going to events, I think that meeting people in person is really helpful at this stuff. I know it's not always possible for folks, but it does just take the relationship to the next level and make it a little more real, I think.
I work alone in my basement every day, guys. I need the human interaction. Like, I am an extrovert in a basement. Like, it's like the opposite of what I think makes us happy. And so getting to go socialize and network with people is hugely helpful. Like, I like networking and talking to people so much. I'm in a local like networking group in my town because it allows for me to plug into my community and get like personal needs met and still do. See, I still do business. Like, I'm able to get some pretty like substantial contracts locally that are still allowing for me to create, because I still think marketing is a lot of creating and people just do it wrong. And so it's like been very good in like that aspect as well. So if any chance, like I will preach this from the mountaintops until I'm blue in the face. Go network as much as you can, because it's going to be helpful for you. Because if anything, it helps you like talking to people, getting out of your comfort zone. It makes you have to put on real pants and do your hair and makeup and like all of it. So it's
Yep.
like it's really, I think, really helpful. Like, people need people. Get out of your houses,
For
guys.
sure. For sure. And I agree. And I'm the opposite. I'm an introvert and I still agree. Like, I still, yeah, it gets lonely working alone all the time. And I think the connection, like I said, that you make with brands or potential clients or even just collaborators or friends, it just is that much deeper when you actually shake somebody's hand and have a cup of coffee with them. Like, it just takes it to the next level.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to do that with you in real life. So it's going to be fun.
For sure.
Okay, so let's head over to our pie chart and go over your income streams, because you have a very colorful wheel, which means you have a lot of different ones, which is always my favorite color wheel to see. So first and foremost, we have AdSense. So AdSense makes up only 6% of your income. Now, I would be very curious if you're open to sharing, like, what are your RPMs on your AdSense?
Ooh, RPM. So I have been intentionally not looking at this recently. I don't know if you've heard about the invalid traffic thing. I'm sure you have.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know my RPMs off the top of my head, but I can give you like actual numbers because I was just looking at this recently. I think in 2022, I made like 61 grand from YouTube AdSense, or 2021. 2022, I made like 49. This 2023, I made 39. So it's just progressively going down.
Do you think that it's going down because I have like my own theories, but what are your reasons that you think the AdSense is going down? Because I think that for you, your views have maintained, if not had
Grown.
growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely 2021 to 2023, I'm getting more views overall. My audience has grown significantly. So it's like, It's so frustrating when you log in and it's like everything looks good, everything's in the green, but you're getting paid way less this month. I mean, I think the invalid traffic thing is a whole thing, and like that could be a whole episode on its own. So if anyone's curious about that, go to Twitter, type in invalid traffic. You can learn about that. That's an issue that's been affecting a lot of search friendly channels I've found, like teaching channels, SEO friendly channels. I think there's a lot of theories on why that's happening. But I also think that, yeah, there's new advertising platforms that weren't really there in 2020. TikTok is huge now. And I think they're really trying to figure out monetization. So, and also the economy. Like we have to be realistic about it too. Brands are probably cutting back spending on advertising as well, a little bit.
I also feel like shorts took a big chunk from it as well, because shorts came out last year for the advertising in February 2023, and even I've created some shorts, and I think that we are now in this place in it where it's like you either need to be a shorts creator or a long form creator, and if you do both, like you're gonna ruin both of those things. Like your channel will struggle. In fact, we've seen like creators that are like, I walked away from this 500,000 subscriber shorts channel because it wasn't working out or paying well. And
Yeah.
then and I feel like that shift has happened as well. But I also think that we've seen with advertisers is that they're shifting their budgets away from paper like click advertising to influencer marketing, because
Yeah.
as much as I love YouTube's ad model and it's great, I feel like the best way for it to be effective is that you have to think of it more like that as awareness, not conversion. It's very much like how billboards work, or when we're scrolling Facebook, like it doesn't, like you got to think like there's not a lot of ads that really stop us in our tracks and make us click or buy. And I think that if YouTube really wants to compete with TikTok, they have to figure out how shopping the platforms will work. And I love this week, like this week or last week, from when we recorded this episode, they launched the shopping links for like Shopify for YouTube. So you can put your digital physical products up on Shopify and add them as like a clickable link on your videos, or in like
Yep.
the under the description part, like where merch usually is, for
Yep.
stuff, which I think is going to be a good step in the right direction for them as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good point. And I will say the reason I'm not, too upset about the YouTube ad revenue going down is because, yeah, my sponsorship revenue went way up last year. So I agree with you. I think people are just changing how they're spending that ad money.
Well, that's a good transition, because your next income stream is 30% is from sponsorships. I'd love if you're open to sharing like some of the brands that you have been able to work with and how they align with what you are creating.
Yeah, I worked, like I said, Metricool was kind of my longest term sponsor last year. I worked with Amazon Business on some cool stuff. I worked with Meta on some campaigns. Those are some of the big ones. And yeah, I mean, they all align to either being social media marketing related and or entrepreneurship focused, really helping entrepreneurs and creators monetize, grow, run their businesses more effectively.
Your next one is affiliates. So you have 9% that comes from affiliates. What's your affiliate marketing strategy?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't have a huge strategy to it. It's very organic. It's like when I'm making content and I'm talking about something that would be helpful to people, I drop the affiliate link. So I haven't had this huge aggressive strategy. However, I learned pretty much that affiliate income all comes from Honeybook, which is a client management system for freelancers.
Okay.
And I absolutely love it. I've been using it since I think 2020 or so. Obsessed with it. I just recommend it, like I said, really organically. I recommend it inside of my courses. I have a bunch of videos on it. And I learned that I'm actually one of their top 3 affiliates, or I was last year. So it was really cool. They had like a affiliate partner summit last year.
Did you get an award?
Yeah, I didn't get an award, but I spoke there.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, they had like their top affiliates speak. It was really fun. And so what I learned from that, it really inspired me, because I'm like, okay, if I'm like one of their top affiliates and I'm like kind of just doing it willy-nilly, what if I did this intentionally? So that is actually a big goal of mine this year, is to raise that number a little bit and maybe even become an affiliate for some other brands and things like that, because it is easy. Like you're just recommending things to people. You don't have to deal with the fulfillment. You don't have to deal with the, next step and actually making that conversion. Just send those links out, and yeah, it can be really helpful.
Love that. Your next one is membership, which makes it 4% of your income. How have you been able to build a membership for something that's so educational and like social based? Like, what does that look like?
I am still very much learning. About memberships, I'll be honest with you. I have had the Freelance Friday Club for years. I've had it since 2019 and some version of it since 2019. Last year I actually paused enrollments on it and made it so you couldn't join because I got overwhelmed by it. And part of that was because the platform I was on wasn't super helpful. Like I found it really overwhelming. So that's why I did switch platforms. And yes, I'm still figuring it out. For again, it's very much mostly alumni of courses are in there. So they
Okay.
usually go, they take a course and then it's like, hey, if I want to keep working with you or I want to learn maybe some next level things that aren't just about social media management or just about video, I want to learn more about like just the business thing, the business of freelance and networking and things like that, then I kind of guide people that way. But it hasn't been something that I've promoted in a large way traditionally. It's just been kind of like funneled through courses mostly.
It's like part of your funnel, like where you like, okay, you got in the course now, like now what kind of a thing? Join this. I think that's a great way to do it rather than like it being the front of your funnel because it allows for you've built trust and credibility through your courses and your digital products, and then they can continue to get support, probably updated relevant information, and a little bit of access to you by being a part of that
Yep,
membership.
for
So
sure.
your the next income stream that you have that makes up 10% of your income is service. So is this freelance work, contract work, UGC work?
Exactly. It's all done for you video and marketing services.
And I'm presuming when you got started, that was a much bigger percentage, and now you do more of your income comes from the creator work as well.
Yep, that percentage has went down every year, which is a good thing. Mostly, I mean, I actually this year we might get to what's coming up, but this year I actually want to do more hands-on stuff. I've just felt really called to do it. I really enjoy doing it, but so maybe it won't go down this year. Maybe it'll actually go up. But yeah, I mean, when I started, it was like 100%, 90%.
So your biggest income stream is in courses and digital products. Share with us what that looks like, what the revenue you're making, all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So I launched my first digital product back in 2016, actually, when I was still working full-time corporate job. And it has been a slow growth over the years. That number has just slowly went up over the years. And really right now I have like two core products. I have the Social Media Management Accelerator, which is a cohort-based course for social media managers. So it's a live launching, if you will, like I'm, hosting it in a container of like 5 to 7 weeks at a time. I launch at least 2 times a year, more if I can, or if I want to, or if there's demand for it. And then the other big piece of that is a product called the Social Media Management Toolbox, which is more like templates. It's a template pack for social media managers. They can edit in Canva, Google Docs, etc. We're launching Notion later this year as well, soon. Yeah, so that's another big piece, which that is more evergreen. It's just kind of like always there in my description box of my YouTube videos. The lead magnet that I have, which is just like a kind of social media manager ebook, it links to the toolbox. So it mostly sells on autopilot in that way.
So I'm guessing that how your courses work is if you have an ebook and a drip system. I think that one of the biggest things is that a lot of creators don't know what to do. Because I think everyone has a digital product in them. I think everyone can be collecting emails, whether you are a gamer or in food or makeup, beauty. Every single industry has a freebie that they can give to get people's email list. But I think that the big stalling point comes down in like the selling process and the drip email system. What advice or structures or things do you think creators could learn from you to make their emails help convert sales for them?
I think, like a lot of things, we really overcomplicate this. When I first started, I was like, what's a funnel? Like, who's going to help me crack the code of a funnel? Like, there's some secret tool. It just means how you get people from point A to point B. Like, just simplify it in that way. Okay, they met you through YouTube. Now, what do they need to know about you or know about your services in order to want to convert? So, yeah, offer them something free to get them on your list. And then I have a short sequence. I think it's maybe like a three to five email welcome sequence that just kind of goes through, hey, here's who I am, here's why you signed up, here's a little bit about what I do. I offer a little incentive, not anything huge or anything, but it's a bundle that they can get that's a discounted rate if they sign up through the email list. So that offers a little bit of that incentive to purchase. And then, like, once they're done with the welcome sequence, if they don't join, or even if they do, they get added to my newsletter list. And I have sent out a weekly newsletter consistently for, 2 years or so. And that just acts as additional content, additional support. I really try my best to make it a two-way conversation. Like, I'm always adding calls to action of reply. You can reply to this email. Sometimes people don't know that, like, yes, I actually check my emails. Feel free to let me know if you have questions, that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, that's really all that I do. It's not anything too fancy.
And your last income stream that you have is consulting and speaking, which makes up a whole whopping 1%, which I I love that it's still important enough to make income from you. How do you pick and choose what speaking gigs you take?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, again, going back to alignment, like, is it going to, am I really going to be able to help the people who show up? Because if I get hired to talk to, like, farmers of America or something, love them, but, like, I'm probably not going to be creating, like, content for them or having, like, a long-term relationship with them. So it's not really valuable on my side that much if the audience is completely out of alignment. And yeah, so it's about audience alignment. It's about, yeah, kind of, you got to be selfish about it. Like, what am I going to get out of it? Are other people that I want to meet up with or network with going to go? Do I want to go to that town or city where it's being hosted? That's another piece for me. I love to travel, but I don't love to travel for just for work. Like, I like to explore. I like to eat food. So if it's somewhere fun, I'll go. Yeah, just kind of assessing what it's going to bring to your audience as well.
I love what you said about how this is a city I want to go to and like what could I do there, like to have fun and explore. My favorite thing to do, because I do have the privilege to travel a lot when I travel. When I'm going somewhere new, is I always love to go to like Airbnb experiences and look for food tours. Because I feel like the best way to learn about a place is like through their food. And then usually like the tour guide gives you like anecdotes and information about it. Like I've done that. Like I've gone to Chicago, did like a donut tour. I've done a bagel tour in New York City. I've done stuff in it. I think there's like a soul food tour in Atlanta. I really want to go do. Like there's just it's like a great way to learn about a culture and what they have going on. This like a fun extra right there.
That's super cool.
So one of the things I think it's important to address before we dive into what your big money moves are for next year is I'd love a little bit to know about your operations on the back end. One of the ways that I believe is a way to make money and focus on creative, which is what we are great at as YouTubers, is we need to have the right back end in place so that we can relieve some of the stress and burden of work, like running the business, getting the leads, managing the steps, doing the stuff. What does your operations look like that allow for you to focus on what you do best, which is creating?
I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm, like, terrible about this, to be
Okay,
honest.
and that is okay, and I love that honesty.
Yeah, I am, because I do everything. I'm a one-person team, one and a half, I guess, because I do have kind of my husband helps out a lot. He's kind of a operations lead, freelance. But yeah, I'm the only full-time employee of my company. I've had multiple different arrangements. I've worked with full-time operations people. I've worked with tons of freelancers. At one point, I had a 7-person team. And now I really find, even though it is a little much, I really find that things go a lot smoother and I feel a lot more secure when it's like a 1-person team. I do work with some freelancers here and there. Like I worked with an instructional designer last year who helped me with that Notion update to the toolbox, for example. And yeah, I call in people when I need them, but like it's pretty much just me doing everything.
Do you edit like your own videos and your podcasts and all that kind of stuff? Why is it control? Is it quality? Like what is the reason that you've chosen to do that?
Yeah, like I said, I worked with multiple video editors over the years and love them. Again, like I'm not like trashing anyone by any means, but I guess it is maybe control of like, if I say the podcast goes out at 7 a.m. on Fridays, it needs to go out at 7 a.m. on Fridays. That's consistency is a big piece of growth, I think, and why I've been able to build this business. And so I get really stressed out. That's also historically why I've struggled working with sponsors because, that review delay that sometimes happens. So yeah, so it's sometimes just easier for me to just like, I know my routines, I film, I batch it out, I get it out, and I'm not disappointed. And if I am disappointed, I'm just disappointed in myself.
Do you think that is capping your financial earnings?
Sometimes I do. Like I wonder what could happen if, let's say, I did a daily podcast, or I did a, more content on shorts or things like that. But I also do think it's important that we operate in our zone of genius. And I think it is partially control, but it's also, I love editing. And like I said, I've been editing since I was 14. I took my first video class. So it's kind of second nature to me now. I'm not saying I'm the best editor in the world, but I don't think I'm terrible at it. And I think it's kind of my zone of genius. So I also feel like you have to listen to that in yourself too. Try different things, see how it goes. But if you're just really not loving it, go back to what you like doing.
There was the YouTuber that talked about how he got really big from like the minimalism movement. His name was Matt D something, and he talked about how he had this whole team of stuff and doing stuff, and he became a manager, and he hated it, and it was stressful, and he was like not sleeping, and he'd be waking up in the middle of the night, like panic attacks, and he got rid of like his whole team. He is a one-man show, and it's allowing for him to control his content, control his messaging, and it's allowing for him to just feel and do better because again, we talk about, the quitting era of YouTubers. So many of them were doing so many things and they weren't getting to create because they were so busy managing and so busy doing operations that creative becomes less and less. And I talked to a guy who runs an HVAC company locally in my county, and he's been doing that for years, and he's a contractor all this stuff. And it's like one of the things, and I talked to him, is like one thing that sucks about going into business for yourself is that the more successful you get, the less time you get to actually do the work. And like, and when you're talking about like service providers, like they're doing things with their hands, like they're the ones building the houses, fixing the plumbing, doing the manual labor, because that's what they're good at. And if you think about it from a college perspective, it's what they go to school to learn to do. No one's teaching about running businesses. No one's teaching you about like this other stuff. And like you have to do marketing, and you have to pay attention to accounting, and you have to figure out your operations and all this kind of stuff. And I think that figuring out your limitations so that you can still prioritize what you're selling, which is creativity, and the fact that you have figured that out for yourself is super admirable. And I think more people really need to embrace that so that they can have longevity and success. And I think that where like you are sitting is very, a quality growth YouTuber who's having slow and steady growth that's allowing for you to have a sustainable income, freedom, and also sitting in like what I would consider like a middle class creator, which is not, I think, talked about nearly enough.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
What is your next money move?
Next money move. Like I said, I actually want to go back a little bit to doing some more full service work for folks. It's just been really fun for me. So going to be investing some time into that. It is a goal for me to bring that 1% speaking number up a little bit, which so far this year, it's already been like a good chunk, a good percentage of my revenue this year. I know we're very early in the year, but
where are you going? Where are you speaking at this year?
so I'm speaking at Social Media Marketing World in February, and in May, I'll be at CEX in Cleveland.
Nice. I'll be there. We'll be there too with GigaStar.
Oh, okay, cool. And then, I spoke at a couple of different internal events already. I spoke at like a Thinkific event and things like that. So I'm just being a little bit more picky with speaking and charging for it. So that's my
And that's
goal.
why you should do it. At the very least, get your travel covered so that you can go to cool places that you want to go to.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
Latasha, it was a pleasure getting to talk to you, learn about your process, your money making streams. I feel like I've got notes and notes, and I hope that everyone enjoys it. Remember, head over to thefundedyoutuber.com for all of our show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave 5 stars. And we are doing a thing over on Spotify where we ask a question about each episode, and we'd love to know your feedback. So until next week, thank you. Bye. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by GigaStar, a parent company of GigaStar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Music provided by APM Music, unrivaled music to bring your stories to life. Neither GigaStar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, financial situation, or needs of any specific investors.